Beyond. Hey, everybody, welcome to Podcast Beyond, episode 468. Oh boy. So for those of you who are just listening to our voices from throughout the ether of the computer headphones, we probably sound maybe the same, maybe a little bit different.
We probably sound a little bit better.
Yeah. For those of you watching,
I sound great.
on video, you'll note that we are in a beautiful new studio, and we've got cool new microphones that don't have those weird foam things on them that smell like man fart, and those were really smelly microphone
It
shields.
also smelled like lady farts, so be fair.
Okay, so the good, like, just, unisex fart of the microphone shields is gone. We now have these cool silver things.
We don't deserve whatever they gave us.
Hey, look at that. I got my own camera. Go back to me.
Stop
Do it. Yeah, what's up?
All right.
Anyway, yeah, so a lot of stuff's going on. It's that wonderful fun time of year when things come out and games come out and people review them. We get to talk about them. But we also got a brand new sort of PlayStation.
No, definitely got a new PlayStation.
Yeah.
This is brand new PlayStation hardware.
The PlayStation 4 Pro is out in the wild. Raise your hand if you have one.
Oh.
For the record, Caleb and Brian both raised their hands.
right.
Again, if you're not watching the video of this, you're missing out.
Yeah,
You should be.
Max and I remained handless because we're just a couple poor boys.
I was touching my lap. Anyway, what's the PS4 Pro like?
So right off the bat, I want to say real quick, I think it's just been like truly amazing as a PlayStation fan to get not one but two new hardware launches within the matter of a few months. I got a PSVR and a PS4 Pro within 4 weeks of each other. I don't know what we did to deserve this as PlayStation fans.
Yeah, it's
usually
sort
you
of
have to wait every
unprecedented.
5 years.
Yeah.
It's a bit overwhelming.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's a lot.
overwhelming with good things.
It is, and they don't necessarily communicate as best as they possibly could, but we'll get into some of that. But Caleb, you got a PS4 Pro. I just got one. We've had now about 4 or 5 days with the new system.
Yeah.
What was the whole sort of experience like for you, starting with sort of just bringing it home, unpacking it, and doing your first system transfer?
Well, so I got a bit of a head start. I brought my hard drive and my old PS4 to the office on Thursday. So as soon as Amazon dropped off my PS4 Pro, I was ready to do the transfer.
You were doing some surgeries on it.
Yeah, I actually transferred my 2 terabyte hard drive from my PS4 to the PS4 Pro first.
So you already voided the warranty. Just completely destroyed.
No,
it.
they allow you
they
to
will
do
send
that.
people
They
after you.
like you
They hate it.
swapping out hard drives. They even make it easy for you. So the hard drive swap process is basically the same as it was with the PS4. So I did that. You have to download the firmware and put it in a little thumb drive and reinitialize the system so it views your new hard drive as a new hard drive.
Yep.
And then I backed up my PS4 using the backup and restore function, restored it to my PS4 Pro. And
Most
about-
importantly, I saw you still have PT.
absolutely.
Yeah.
me.
PT is safe in its new home.
I like that you can just sort of carry that from system to system for as long as you possibly can.
Yeah, because the backup and restore function, right, that's what it does. Is it's
Yeah.
basically making a full image of whatever your PS4 is. So if your PS4 gets stolen, or if you drop it in a pool of water,
Or if Konami takes your games off the store and you
if-
cannot download them
or if
anor.
You bring a girl home and she steps on your PS4
There's that,
and you no
yeah.
longer have PT.
Yeah, what happened with that?
That was just a real big mistake, guys.
You're a mess.
Anyway,
Anyway, so the transfer worked the same as a regular PS4. It was great, and I'm all set and good to go. So by the time I got home on Thursday, I was all ready to play Dishonored.
Awesome. I've noticed there's actually been a couple different ways of actually doing that sort of system transfer. One of them that you can do is just sort of start from fresh, log into your account, and then if you have PlayStation Plus, download your cloud saves, assuming you uploaded those. So then you'll have to re-download all of your games, which if you have a lot is kind of a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
The way I did it was a little weirder. I took an Ethernet cable and connected my old PS4 to my new PS4 Pro and connected them. And then so I basically had 2 PS4s hooked up at the same exact time. Only one of them had to be connected to the TV, making sure both of them were on the same sort of firmware. And then I had, I think, 380 gigabytes because I had a launch PS4, which I think was 500 gigs.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was basically managing it to the point where I get rid of stuff where I don't need it anymore. I know a lot of people are more like digital hoarders with stuff like that. I try to be a little more, That's
me.
Yeah.
clearly.
Yeah.
2 terabyte
Yeah,
drive.
right.
Yeah, right. So I stuck with the 1 terabyte drive that comes with the Pro right off the bat. And the reason I got one to begin with was because I was sort of like, all right, well, my launch PS4 has been kicking around for a while. I want to upgrade the hard drive. If I trade this one in, I can get a couple $100 off the new one, and then putting in a new hard drive. It basically came out to be like $200 to upgrade. And to me, it feels like it feels like the leap between like going from a phone 1 year to a phone the next year. Kind
Well,
of,
especially if you mount, I mean, you're using it right now for PSVR pretty much, right? Whereas you have wait, do you guys have 4K TVs?
No, I just ordered one, so I'll have the same one we have in the office here.
And yes, I just bought one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I did a system transfer. It was 380 gigabytes, and it took about, I want to say about 85 minutes, which is kind of nothing at all.
Yeah,
considering
nice,
like, I remember when I did a system transfer from my 3DS to my new 3DS. I don't know if any of you guys have ever done that before. It was a nightmare. I had to have both plugged in to their own power adapters at the same time, and I think it took 23 hours and timed out like 3 times. And you see, I
killed your Animal Crossing town.
Yeah, my Animal Crossing town died in the meantime.
And what, it was a couple gigs?
Yeah, this carried everything over. The only thing that happened was I got logged out of Hulu and Netflix.
Okay,
And
so
was
it's
like,
sort of like the end of Avatar when they plug into that big tree and there's like
Yeah.
the cords between them or whatever.
yeah, except
you
I
have to remember your passwords.
Yeah, and I wasn't trying to forget it every day for the last.
There
6
you
years.
go. So yeah, you've talked a lot about PSVR.
Yeah.
That's one thing I don't think we really touched on a whole lot in our like PS4 Pro review. What's your take on that? Like, how does it interact with that? Is it they didn't? I mean, Sony hasn't even really touched on it, but clearly it's going to improve stuff.
It's kind of a gift and a curse to use PSVR with the PS4 Pro because, first of all, just general sort of like operating system stuff. It feels snappier. Downloads are quicker. I think it's using a better Wi-Fi signal, which the Slim is also using as well. And you're getting some better sort of video output functionality, even on a 1080p TV. PSVR, on the other hand, is sort of night and day with some games. I tested out Drive Club, Robinson the Journey, Bound, some of the more like sort of graphically intense games.
Yeah.
And the ones that got a patch are noticeably better. Like even I tried the London Heist level in PlayStation Worlds, and you can actually like I don't think I really realized like how much of like a 32x game that game looked like the first time around. Like the actual the interior of the guy's car and that shootout sequence is very flat, and now it's like textured and a lot more nice looking. Robinson was one of the games where I was like, wow, this is noticeably better. One of the things I noticed for sure, white text in general in PSVR has been kind of like hit or miss.
Yeah.
Have you guys noticed that it's got a lot of
it almost has like
around it?
and it has like a blur around the edge.
It's got a blur.
Hard.
There's some aliasing. You have to do stuff where you're basically tilting the back of your hat up to angle it a little bit so you see things better. Yeah. So that I noticed is actually much more crisp. Load times in general feel better. So if you're only buying a PS4 Pro for PSVR, think about it's like $400 for the PSVR, $400 for the Pro. You're getting into sort of like Oculus territory there in terms of pricing. But I think graphics wise, obviously not as great as Oculus, but it's getting close.
Yeah, it's closing the gap between them.
And there's one major issue of hooking up your PS4 Pro to your PSVR, which you haven't encountered yet.
Yes.
Which you will when you get your 4K TV.
So 4K TV is the one you want to look for now. The one I just bought and you just bought is a Samsung KS8000, I believe.
Yeah,
right?
the KS8000, the reason we bought that is because it's supposed to be pretty good for HDR, as well as really low input time.
Yeah, very low latency, which you might have seen this deal kicking around from Sony the other day. It was $1,000 for a PS4 Pro and a 4K TV. That one's got pretty crappy latency, so just be careful with that kind of stuff.
But so the issue with PSVR and PS4 Pro is that the PSVR will pass through the 4K signal to your 4K TV, but it won't pass through HDR.
Yeah, so it's very finicky, and now people are figuring out a way to sort of like set up like you can buy like a switch through Amazon it's like $15 and you can do a pass through on it. But regardless, I think it's incredible. Like it's a kind of a huge misstep for Sony to announce and launch both of these pieces of hardware that work together so well in some ways, but in this very glaring, very obvious thing, completely sort of conflict with each other. And so I don't know how that happened.
And then even though Sony's TVs did have kind of much worse latency issues than some of the other TVs in the model, out there right now, they did just release a firmware update for a lot of their 4K TVs, which reduced that a little bit.
Yeah, which is still something I need to get used to is TVs needing firmware.
Yeah, that's one of those things. Is this one of those things they can like fix in post, or is it like if you buy a TV, you're kind of screwed?
I think
it's a little bit of both.
It's a little bit of both. I think possibly the former, but my guess is that within the next 6 months, you'll see Sony selling a breakout box that functions in the way their launch version of PSVR didn't. And while we're all waiting for like PSVR version 2 and 3 and the next gen versions of those things, I think we're going to get a box. They'll probably sell it for like $40 or $50. You'll swap out your old one, sell it to some schmuck. Sorry. And then sorry to schmucks. And then you'll put the new one in and everything will work as directed. But one of the things that I will point out, PSVR takes up a USB slot. on the front of your PS4 right now. And
so many cables.
Yeah, so many cables. But since the PS4 Pro actually has a USB slot on the back, it frees up the 2 in the front. So you don't have this stupid Dr. Octopus snake coming out of the front of your system, which if you've tried PSVR.
It can't be an octopus and a snake.
Dr. Octopus snake, what's wrong with you?
You know, it's a bunch of animals just all put together. Who cares?
Just say a rat's nest.
It's fine. It's a rat's nest.
Ball of snakes.
A ball of rats. So you can actually plug it into the back now, which if you've used PSVR before or tried it or seen it anywhere, you've seen all the cables coming out of it. So this reduces that just by the tiniest bit. Also, because when you use PSVR, you use Move controllers, which use their own separate proprietary or not proprietary.
Those cool ones from 2012.
The mini USB chargers.
Nice old school.
So now you can actually
cables.
you can charge 2 things at the same time. If you use your Sony headset, which has that little Bluetooth plug-in thing, like there's a lot going on. So now you have better abilities to sort of manage that.
Has Sony announced a proprietary entertainment console yet? Like just a box you can put all this crap in and close the doors on
It's
it?
a big cardboard box.
Yeah.
I mean, no, that'd be great though.
Well, I mean, what they suggest is you just turn the lights off and you can see it.
Can they
That's fine.
put it on your floor and have a woman step on it?
yeah, that worked for Marty.
Yeah.
You know what?
What? You want?
Yeah, that was a big mistake on my part.
But
Well, I'm
Caleb,
glad you've come to terms with that, Marty.
you've been playing PS4 Pro like in the proper way, in
Yes.
4K, with
Yes.
HDR, with all the new game patches, which I think it was something like 25 or 30 games got patched this
big
week.
list. Yeah.
Bunch of classic games like The Last of Us, Uncharted 4, not the Uncharted
Infamous.
collection, Infamous, and the Infamous DLC.
Knack is getting one.
I mean, Titanfall
Yeah,
2.
Nat got one.
Yeah, Titanfall
Yeah.
2. And then,
a
then
bunch of
modern
PSVR games.
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah.
a ton of stuff got patched.
How big are these patches?
Anywhere from a couple hundred megs to several gigs.
Okay.
I think I want to say that the Last of Us patch was like 6 gigs or something. But I don't remember.
One of the
several gigs.
One of the weird things is a lot of these are sort of nebulous on what they do. Is that right?
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah,
hey,
yeah.
it's a better performance. And you're like, well, what does that mean?
Well, so that's what I wanted to get into, right? I think first off, I want to clear up a couple of rumors or mistruths about the PS4 Pro. The first is that it can't support native 4K. That's absolutely false. It supports native 4K with multiple games. Many games, they are, too robust to render at a full 2160p or whatever the 4K resolution is. But games like Skyrim, games like Thumper, games like Neo, which is coming out in the spring, there's a bunch of games that are native 4K, full 4K resolution.
I believe Horizon as well, right?
No, Horizon I think is checkerboarded.
Oh, really?
Which is I think. I don't think it's native.
Because that's easily like one of the most gorgeous things I've ever
But anyway,
seen.
regardless, there definitely are full, true 4K games on the PS4 Pro. The second thing I want to clear up is that people are saying there's no benefit to a PS4 Pro if you have a 1080p TV. And that's totally false as well, because plenty of games are actually offering additional graphics modes for 1080p, whether that's high frame rate, so like 60 frames per second, whether that's additional graphical bells and whistles, or whether that's super sampling, where the game is actually rendered at 4K, and then basically that 4K image is brought down to 1080p for your TV, so it gets rid of jaggies. It's a way of anti-aliasing, basically.
Yeah. And if this is confusing to you, and you wanted PC games to come to consoles, they have, and here we are.
Except that it's just one box that you plug in.
Yeah,
and
that
then
still
it's
does
like
make
an
it easier.
option.
But I did notice with games like Tomb Raider got patched, and they give you sort of like a number of different options in terms of what you want to prioritize in terms of power.
Yeah, I think that's really cool.
distance. Yeah.
Sort of having the choice to be like, hey, frame rate matters to me, or running in 4K matters to me, which I think is cool.
And so having options is fantastic,
Yeah.
right? On the flip side of that, what's sort of been bothering me are I don't expect all games to have options, but I would at least like to know what the Pro is doing on a game-by-game basis.
Yeah.
So like I played Dishonored 2 all weekend, right? And Dishonored 2 is PS4 Pro supported. What does the Pro add?
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Better load times or something?
It looks really nice, but I haven't played on another TV on a vanilla PS4, so I don't know what the differences are.
So that's like, I think there's 2 things that need to start happening going forward, coming from Sony and PlayStation directly, is that one, I think that basically if you're working on a PS4 game, it should be mandatory that there's a Pro support or patch at some capacity.
I think it is.
Well, no, because some games are still sort of like hit or miss with that stuff. I noticed there's like 2 PSVR games that are coming out this week that aren't Pro supported. So I think in the next few weeks you'll see developers playing catch up. But number 2, like the game box or patch notes or somewhere should indicate everywhere this is what you're getting. That's one of the things Vince pointed out in our review was sort of like you don't really know what you're getting. Like it says PS4 Pro supported, but what does that actually mean?
Yeah, there's no regulations sort of across across.
And
the
I know
board.
that if we get too obsessed about resolution or frame rates, it gets kind of navel gazy. But at the same time, if you're marketing something for the pro gamer or for a, more enlightened, more technically based gamer, they just want to know those details.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why we're dropping the extra $400.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that PC gaming gets done really well is that like it looks really boring to us, but when you see patch notes, I mean, even my phone does it when you update an app.
Goes into the minutia.
It tells you like, oh, we added this, we added this, we added this, performance, blah 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 blah. So I think like it seems boring, but like this is where we are now as console gamers, as PlayStation gamers. Like, let us know what's actually happening in these games.
So Brian, you mentioned load times being noticeably better with the PS4 Pro. That's one thing that really appeals to me. Obviously, load times suck. What really scares me, though, is if developers start focusing too much on the PS4 Pro and let their load times kind of slack on vanilla PS4.
Yeah, and obviously that's been a concern since we first heard about the Pro, right? Of sort of like splitting the market. And again, we don't have a lot of examples of what this is like in the console space. That's why I brought up the new 3DS before. Yeah. This is the last time we sort of saw this like, oh, this only works on the new 3DS and this doesn't work on the old one. And I mean, if you look at the Xbox One S, it's not really splitting hairs like that.
But the Scorpio's gonna.
But the Scorpio will, and eventually you will have a point of no return.
Maybe. I mean,
what is the Scorpio?
Yeah, I mean, my thing is, Digital Foundry put out a list that there are a handful of games that, as of this moment, actually don't perform as well on the PS4 Pro as they do on a traditional PS4, whether it be frame rate dips or anything like that.
Which is weird because like something like Deus Ex looks better than ever on the PS4 Pro, but it's got some hiccups in terms of.
And the reasoning behind that's interesting too, right? The games that are running worse on the Pro, I mean, ultimately it's probably only a 5 frames per second difference.
So we've got the list right here, so I figured I'd go over it. We've got a few Square games. We've got Deus Ex, Mankind Divided, Hitman, World of Final Fantasy. Those are all kind of, I mean, maybe they're running on similar guts or something. Mantis Burn Racing.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, that's an STD.
Skyrim Special Edition. Wow, Skyrim isn't playing well with a Sony platform. That's a big surprise. I'm sure that'll get fixed eventually. And then weirdly enough, The Last of Us Remastered. That seems kind of like a major oversight.
But I mean, take that all with a grain of salt, right?
Like, it's not like these are unplayable on a PS4 Pro.
And look at for the reason why it's running slower than base hardware. I think, what's a good example of that? The Last of Us is probably a good example. The reason why it's running slower than the base hardware is because the 1080p mode of The Last of Us is actually 4K super sampled. So if you're playing it on a 1080p TV, there is no way to say, just give me the old vanilla 1080p version of The Last of Us Remastered. The Pro is saying, actually, we're going to give you, if you click the 4K or the 30 FPS, so Last of Us does have some options. There's a high frame rate option. Anyway, if you pick the 4K option, it's going to super sample. If you pick the 60 frames per second option, it's just going to give you what that is anyway, and it does run a bit slower than the vanilla Pro version because the 60 frames per second version here has added graphical bells and whistles.
To be honest, Caleb, I'm really glad you're here because I don't understand.
Me too.
So it's not a like-for-like comparison, right?
Yeah.
There is no vanilla version of that game running on the Pro anymore.
And I think a lot of things people are noticing are sort of like frame rate hiccups, some stuttering here and there, and like minor screen tearing, but nothing that's like completely killing the experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like if you've been PC gaming for years, like this is the kind of stuff that like you've become accustomed to. It's like, man, I maxed this thing out. It looks better than ever. But like when I turn the guy in The Witcher too quick, like it cuts the screen in half for half a second.
Do you want more pixels? Do you want better performance? How do you sort of mitigate the two?
So we're at a weird crossroads, right? Because like the entire reason that people got into console gaming is ease of use and to not have to worry about any of this kind of stuff. It's sort of just the difference between cooking and ordering food, right? You're just like, well, here it is, it's done. I don't care about how it was made. So I think just like it as a whole, like general impressions on the system, it does feel a little snappier. I do love the console design. The controller with the new front light bar is really sleek. It's not a complete overhaul. It doesn't feel like I don't have buyer's remorse for it, but I don't also have that like tremendous wow factor. The box is missing the handle, which is
messed up.
That's a huge problem.
That's garbage. They can't fix
huge
that with
problem.
a patch.
Yeah.
But I mean, the wow factor was PSVR for you.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's something that kind of enables that further.
And for me, it is really cool to walk by someone playing Infamous or Mordor on a 4K TV on a Pro and being like, holy crap, this game looks good. Like these 2 almost 3-year-old games like look phenomenal.
Yeah, games like First Light and Shadow of Mordor, I'm like like they look like games that just came out this week.
Or flipping on high frame rate on Tomb Raider. I mean,
seriously,
Tomb Raider running at 60 frames per second looks fantastic.
Yeah.
Which is like cool enough that like we just got that entire game as like a PlayStation package deal with all the bells and whistles, and to have that stuff on top of it is just like really, really awesome.
Cool. So PS4 Pro. I mean, I'm sure we'll probably all line up with one at some point.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
I mean, that'll be. I'll upgrade to it probably in the next year.
One
or
thing
so.
I wanted to point out real quick, it's not nearly as whisper quiet as I thought it would be. I've been playing Watch Dogs 2 on it, and I don't think that's gotten a pro patch yet as of this moment. It probably will within the next 48 hours, but that system gets kind of loud. Like
I mean, I haven't compared it to the Slim, which is supposed to be quiet. It doesn't seem much louder than my original launch PS4.
Yeah.
But the one thing that apparently is interesting about it is that it takes less power to run than a launch PS4.
Weird.
Like apparently in like for like situations. Like if you're running in 4K, obviously it's going to suck more power, but playing a game in 1080p that doesn't have a patch apparently is more power efficient.
It's
Which
also
for someone who played video games with solar power for a year is actually something
go
that I
read
care about.
Go read that feature you put on IGN, playing video games with solar power. Yeah, this is the first PlayStation console where they actually changed the power cable on the back. Like it doesn't have that thin flat one; it's got that fat one that goes in. Yeah, so
Weird cable shame.
I'm sorry. Sorry to the fat cables out there.
It's more robust.
A nice sauce.